The banging started at exactly 5:13 in the morning. Not the usual sounds that woke up Mike Stevens in his small house near Yellowstone National Park. Not the coyotes howling in the distance. Not the wind rattling his windows. This was different. Someone or something was hitting his front door. Hard. Mike sat up in bed and rubbed his eyes. He was 47 years old, worked as a wildlife veterinarian for the past 15 years, and thought he had seen everything. The knocking continued. Loud. Urgent. Like whoever was out there needed help right now. He threw on his jeans and a shirt, still half asleep. His mind went through possibilities. Maybe a hiker got lost. Maybe someone's car broke down on the mountain road. But his house was miles away from any main road. Nobody just wandered out here by accident. The knocking got louder. Mike walked to his front door and stopped. Something felt strange. The pattern of the knocks was too steady, too purposeful. He took a deep breath and opened the door. Standing on his wooden porch was a baby elephant, just standing there, looking right at him. Mike froze. His brain tried to make sense of what his eyes were seeing. A baby elephant. In Montana. At his door. At 5 in the morning. The elephant was young. Maybe 4 or 5 months old based on its size. Its trunk moved awkwardly, like it was still learning how to use it. But what shocked Mike the most was that this baby was completely alone. In all his years working with elephants, Mike knew one thing for certain. Baby elephants never left their mothers. Ever. The family always stayed together. Always. For a baby this young to be by itself meant something was seriously wrong. The elephant looked up at Mike with dark, intelligent eyes. Then it did something that made Mike's heart skip. It reached out with its small trunk and gently touched his hand. Just a soft touch. Then it turned around, walked a few steps away, stopped, and looked back at him. Mike understood immediately. This elephant wanted him to follow. But his training kicked in. Following a wild animal into the forest was dangerous. Even a baby elephant. If adult elephants were nearby and saw him with their baby, they might think he was a threat. They could charge him, kill him. The baby elephant waited. It didn't move forward. It didn't come back to the door. It just stood there, watching Mike with an expression that looked almost human. Desperate. Pleading. Mike made his decision in seconds. He grabbed his medical bag, filled 2 water bottles, and took his emergency radio. Whatever this baby elephant needed to show him, it was important enough to risk breaking every safety rule he knew. He stepped off his porch and nodded at the elephant. The baby's whole body seemed to relax. It turned and started walking toward the thick forest behind Mike's house. The baby elephant moved fast through the forest. Every few seconds it would stop and turn its head to make sure Mike was still following. The early morning air was cold and quiet. Mike could hear his own breathing and the sound of leaves crunching under his boots. They walked for almost 30 minutes. Mike marked their path with his GPS tracker so he could find his way back. The forest got thicker. The trees blocked out most of the sunrise. Mike had walked these woods hundreds of times, but never this far in this direction. Then he heard it. A low, sad sound coming from somewhere ahead. It was the kind of sound that made his stomach drop. The sound of an animal in pain. The baby elephant started moving faster. Mike hurried to keep up. They came to a small clearing, and the baby stopped at the edge. It looked at Mike one more time, then walked forward. Mike stepped into the clearing, and his breath caught in his throat. There was a huge pit in the ground, about 10 feet wide and 10 feet deep. And at the bottom of that pit was an adult female elephant, the baby's mother. She was lying on her side. Her front leg was bent wrong, clearly broken. The walls of the pit were covered in scratch marks where she had tried to dig her way out. Her tusks had left deep gouges in the hard dirt. She had fought hard to escape, but the pit was too deep. This was a poacher's trap. Mike had seen them before. Illegal. Deadly. Built to capture elephants so poachers could take their tusks and leave them to die. The mother elephant was still alive, but barely. Her breathing was shallow. Her eyes were half closed. She had been trapped here for at least 2 days. Maybe longer. The baby elephant rushed to the edge of the pit and made soft crying sounds. The mother lifted her trunk, just a little bit, trying to reach her baby. Even in her pain, she was trying to comfort her child. Mike knelt down at the pit's edge. His hands were shaking. This was bad. Really bad. An adult elephant could weigh up to 8,000 pounds. Getting her out of this pit would need special equipment. A crane. A team of people. Resources he didn't have out here. He pulled out his radio and called the Wildlife Rescue Headquarters. His voice was urgent. He gave them his GPS location and explained the situation. They said they would send a team immediately, but it would take at least 5 hours to get the equipment out here. 5 hours. Mike looked at the mother elephant. She didn't have 5 hours. She was dying, dehydrated, exhausted, in shock from the pain. The baby elephant looked at Mike, waiting, trusting. It had brought him here because it believed he could fix this. Mike had no idea if he could. Mike stared at the trapped elephant and forced himself to think. 5 hours was too long. He needed to do something now, or this mother would die before help arrived. He opened his medical bag and pulled out a dart gun. He loaded it with a painkiller. Not enough to knock her out completely, but enough to help with the trauma. He aimed carefully and shot the dart into her shoulder. The mother elephant barely moved. That was a bad sign. She was too weak to even react. Next was water. Mike knew dehydration was probably killing her faster than the broken leg. He grabbed his water bottles and climbed carefully down into the pit. The walls were steep and unstable. Dirt crumbled under his feet. The mother elephant's eyes opened wider when she saw him coming closer. Mike moved slowly. He spoke in a soft, calm voice even though his heart was racing. He had worked with elephants for years, but never this close to one in pain. A scared elephant could kill him with one swing of her trunk. But she didn't move. She just watched him. Mike reached her head and carefully poured water near her mouth. Her trunk moved slightly. She drank. Not much, but some. It was something. The baby elephant above them made worried sounds. Mike looked up and saw it pacing at the edge of the pit. Back and forth. Back and forth. The little one was terrified. Mike climbed back out of the pit. His shirt was soaked with sweat even though the morning air was freezing. He sat down on the ground next to the baby elephant. They both stared down at the mother. That's when Mike noticed something. There were small piles of leaves and grass scattered around the pit. Fresh ones. The baby had been bringing food to its mother, trying to keep her alive. There were also tiny trenches dug around the edges. The baby had been trying to dig a path, trying to create a way for its mother to climb out. The effort was useless. A baby elephant didn't have the strength, but it had tried anyway. Mike felt his throat tighten. This baby had done everything it could. When nothing worked, it had made a choice. It had left its dying mother alone in this pit and traveled 2 miles through dangerous territory to find the one human who might be able to help. How did it know to come to him? Then Mike remembered. 3 weeks ago, he had helped rescue a young elephant that got stuck in old barbed wire about half a mile from here. There had been other elephants watching from a distance. This baby and its mother might have been in that group. The baby had remembered. It had connected that memory to its current problem. It had reasoned that humans could help elephants. So it found one. Mike looked at the baby elephant. It looked back at him. They both knew what was at stake. The sound of trucks rumbling through the forest came 4.5 hours later. Mike had stayed by the pit the entire time. So had the baby elephant. Neither of them had moved except when Mike climbed down twice more to give the mother water. A team of 6 people arrived with a massive crane mounted on a truck, ropes, a custom lifting harness, and enough medical supplies to treat 10 elephants. The team leader was a woman named Dr. Sarah Chun. She had been doing wildlife rescues for 20 years. She took one look at the pit and shook her head. "This is going to be tough," she said. "The walls are unstable. One wrong move, and they could collapse." Mike explained everything. How long the mother had been trapped, the broken leg, the dehydration, how the baby had walked to his house to get help. Dr. Chun listened, and her expression softened when she looked at the baby elephant standing guard by the pit. "Smart kid," she said quietly. The team worked fast. They couldn't bring the crane too close to the pit because the ground might give way under the weight. Instead, they had to position it 20 feet back and use extension cables. They built a special sling that would go under the mother elephant's body. It had to distribute her weight evenly so the broken leg wouldn't take any pressure. The baby elephant watched everything. When workers got close to the pit edge, it would move toward them. Not aggressive, just watchful, protective. Mike stayed near the baby to keep it calm. Dr. Chen climbed into the pit with 2 other team members. They carefully positioned the sling under the mother elephant. The mother was too weak to fight them. She just lay there breathing hard. Her eyes followed Dr. Chen's every movement. "Okay," Dr. Chen called up. "Start lifting. Slow." The crane engine roared to life. The cables went tight. For a moment nothing happened. Then slowly, inch by inch, the mother elephant began to rise. Mike held his breath. If the sling broke or shifted, the mother would fall, and the impact could kill her. The baby elephant pressed against Mike's leg. He could feel it trembling. Higher, higher. The mother elephant's body cleared the pit edge. The crane operator kept lifting until she was completely over solid ground. Then gently, so gently, he lowered her down. The moment her body touched the earth outside the pit, the baby elephant bolted forward. It ran to its mother and immediately started touching her all over with its trunk, checking her, making sure she was real, making sure she was alive. The mother elephant, despite everything, lifted her trunk and touched her baby's face. She made a soft rumbling sound. Mike had heard that sound before. It was what elephant mothers used to tell their babies, that everything would be okay. Dr. Chen and her team immediately went to work on the broken leg. They had to stabilize it before infection set in. The medical work took another 3 hours. Dr. Chen's team cleaned the leg wound, set the bone as best they could, and wrapped it in a special cast designed for large animals. They gave the mother antibiotics, fluids, and more pain medication. The whole time, the baby elephant never left its mother's side. Mike watched as the mother's condition slowly improved. Her breathing got stronger. Her eyes became more alert. She was going to survive. But there was another problem. This mother and baby had been separated from their elephant herd. Without the protection and support of their family, they were vulnerable. Elephants needed their herd to survive, especially an injured mother with a young baby. Dr. Chen got on her radio and contacted other wildlife teams in the area. Within an hour, they had located the herd. They were about 3 miles west, still searching for the missing mother and baby. "We need to reunite them before nightfall," Dr. Chen said. "The mother can't walk far with that leg, but if we can get the herd to come here, that would work." Mike had an idea. He looked at the baby elephant. "What if the baby calls them?" Dr. Chen nodded slowly. "It might work. Elephants can communicate over long distances. If the baby calls out, the herd might hear and come looking." They waited and watched. The baby elephant seemed to understand that its mother was going to be okay now. It became more relaxed, less frantic, and then, without any prompting, it lifted its small trunk and made a loud trumpeting sound. The call echoed through the forest. The baby waited, then called again, louder this time. 15 minutes passed. Then Mike heard something in the distance, the sound of large bodies moving through trees, breaking branches, heavy footsteps. The herd was coming. 7 adult elephants emerged from the forest. The biggest one, the matriarch, led the way. She stopped when she saw all the humans and the equipment. Her ears flared out. A warning. But then she saw the mother elephant lying on the ground. She saw the baby. Her whole body language changed. She moved forward carefully, and the rest of the herd followed. What happened next made everyone watching go silent. The elephants surrounded the injured mother. They touched her with their trunks. Gentle, careful, checking her injuries, comforting her. The matriarch spent a long time examining the baby, making sure it wasn't hurt. Then the matriarch did something unexpected. She walked over to Mike. She extended her trunk toward him. Mike stood completely still. The trunk touched his chest, his face. She was smelling him, learning him. After a long moment, the matriarch stepped back. She made a low rumbling sound that seemed to vibrate through the ground. Dr. Chen whispered, "I've only heard that sound a few times. It means acceptance. She's thanking you." The herd helped the mother elephant stand. She was shaky, but with her family supporting her on both sides, she could move. Slowly, the group started walking back into the forest. The baby stayed close to its mother's side, but before disappearing into the trees, the baby stopped. It turned and looked back at Mike one last time. Then it raised its trunk in what looked exactly like a wave. Mike raised his hand and waved back. As the elephants faded into the forest, Mike felt something he hadn't felt in years. A sense that he was exactly where he was supposed to be doing, exactly what he was meant to do. The baby elephant had knocked on his door that morning asking for help, and together they had saved a life. Dr. Chen started packing up the equipment. "You know," she said to Mike, "in 20 years I've never seen anything like that. That baby didn't just find help. It found you specifically. It remembered you from that other rescue. It planned this." Mike nodded. He was still watching the spot where the elephants had disappeared. "They're smarter than most people think." "Smarter than most people, period," Dr. Chen said with a small smile. The team loaded their trucks and prepared to leave. Mike walked back toward his house alone. The sun was setting now, painting the sky orange and red. He was exhausted. He hadn't slept, hadn't eaten, but he felt more alive than he had in months. When he reached his porch, he stopped and looked at his front door, the door that a baby elephant had knocked on at 5:13 that morning. A baby elephant that refused to give up on its mother, that walked 2 miles through dangerous territory to find the one person who could help. Mike would never forget that sound, that urgent knocking that had pulled him out of bed and into one of the most incredible days of his life. He went inside and sat down at his desk. He opened his journal and started writing. He documented everything, every detail, because this wasn't just another rescue story. This was proof that animals could think, plan, remember, and reach across species to ask for help when they needed it most. Somewhere in the forest, that night a baby elephant slept next to its mother, surrounded by family. Safe, together, alive. And in his small house, near Yellowstone, Mike Stevens fell asleep, knowing that when that baby elephant had knocked on his door that morning, it hadn't just been asking for help. It had been offering something too. A reminder that the connections between all living things run deeper than most people ever realize. That compassion has no boundaries. And that sometimes the most important thing you can do is simply answer the door when someone needs you. Even if that someone has a trunk and weighs 500 pounds.